Boys, girls, ladies, gents, non-ladies, non-gents. All right, guys, we're back with another video. This video is probably a pretty long time coming. I think the last video we made about our YSG update was probably 7 months ago, if I remember correctly. And I think my opinions on YSG have changed. I think this might be like the final, should you invest in YSG or not video. The community is weirdly enough still decently divided. I think generally as a rule of thumb, if you guys want to just watch this and TLDR it, most people should not be going for YSG in any capacity. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, there's more nuance to it. So if you want to hear the explanation, come on in. If you guys don't mind hitting that like button, subscribing, all that good stuff, really helps out tremendously. And without further ado, I'm just going to go into it. So first things first, a lot has changed in the last year. The meta is not necessarily where it was in terms of archers doing pretty well and having the big three with Boudica, so on and so forth. Right now, if there is one archer march that you should be running, it's probably looking like ZL and Herman. I really like ZL Herman. I think that's a very strong march. However, I don't know if I really want to go for other archer marches simultaneously. You could be going for something like the new commander that came out, I believe, is Asher, and he is a better Nebuchadnezzar. I don't know if that means that I'd want to use him necessarily, or how many archer marches I'd want to have. I mean, I don't know if I want to have more than 2 archer marches, and I don't know if those archer marches look. I don't know if they even include YSG anymore. I mean, we're running ZL Herman and maybe Boudica Asher, perhaps. It could be. We could be running Herman, YSG, Zebu, or ZL Asher, something like that. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. It's just these are less viable than they used to be, and I find it harder to want to put YSG into these marches. It's not impossible still, but YSG might be like a secondary and a third string archer march. Now, can he still be good? Yes, but not as good. And, for expertising commander, especially your first commander, you want them to be generally pretty good. I think the Herman release has probably put the nail in the coffin the nail was in the coffin before. It definitely is in the coffin now in terms of the vast majority of players investing in YSG. I just don't think it's the right move anymore. I would say in terms of uses for YSG, he is very good. It's not like we don't like him. It's not like he doesn't have uses. It's just he's not as good as he used to be. So for early game fighting, and we're talking about KVK 1 as soon as you get him, KVK 2, and the KVK 3 SOC transition, they're all pretty good. YSG is going to do pretty solidly there. Then later into the game, he's going to have a fine secondary to some commanders, whether that's going to be a transitionary secondary with Scipio, whether that's going to be as a secondary to Herman, perhaps, while you don't have ZL, whether that's going to be it could be like a swap if you have the relics that swap your troop type, running something like QB YSG. I've heard does really, really well. So YSG will still have his uses. He won't be completely useless. He just won't be as good. He's got a ton of chaining value. So if you're kind of like a no-life player and you chain a whole lot, especially early game, YSG might just be the commander for you, right? Because once you get to KVK 3, dailies might try to get you Theo, they might try to get you Nebu, but it's going to take some time before you can get your circular AoEs. At least is the case now. And in KVK 1 and 2, you're definitely never going to see any kind of circular AoE without YSG. We're talking about 2 full KVKs where, especially if you have low fighting, you're not going to get any chaining. Any chaining of value, I would say. You can chain with Ethelfled, it's just incredibly tedious and difficult. I think going from a half circle to a full circle is like night and day. The next thing I'd say is YSG's skills themselves are pretty good, right? And we're not talking about pretty good in a function of him just being himself. We're talking about pretty good in the sense of an auxiliary skill in the Orleans KVK. Over here, we're gonna have 50% skill damage, and over here, we're gonna have 100 extra rage. This skill damage is one of the strongest abilities in the game. 50% skill damage is actually ridiculous. If you can put this on anybody as an auxiliary skill, especially something like, say, Herman ZL or QB Joan, right? Those marches with 50% skill damage are actually diabolically strong. I wouldn't say he's worth expertising specifically for those abilities, but if you get good value out of him KVK 1, 2, and 3, and then either A, you're going to be swapping into a pairing with a relic, or B, you're going to be using him as an auxiliary, or if you're in Heroic Anthem, you might be using him as a Bastion. Anytime you're going to see YSG as a Bastion, assuming he doesn't have this third ability, his first 2 abilities are not first 2 abilities. His second and fourth abilities are very strong. And if you have any kind of auxiliaries, his second and fourth abilities, again, are very strong. Even if you don't still use YSG, he is very strong. This is a similar situation to where Alex is in, where Alex is someone I would probably never invest in right now in any capacity. However, if you already have Alex, running Alex and LC is not a bad pairing, right? And in terms of Bastions or auxiliary skills, I mean, Alex is cracked and jacked. You'd want any and all of these as skills on some of your commanders. So investing in Alex was is not the best idea right now, but you can still kind of get away with it. Way more so YSG than Alex, but Alex is just the example, a parallel that I wanted to draw. Good chaining, good fighting early game, a fine transition, and still has uses late game, right? So those are the things that YSG can do for you. Those are the reasons why I would consider investing in him, okay? Another thing I would heavily consider is your investment thoughts. So if you are, let's say, a mid spender and you're not quite T5 yet, you still need some building speedups and you still need some research speedups. For the same reason why a 5-5-1-1 Richard is a good idea, especially early game, because you want to 100 spin all those Richard wheels, or if you're a higher spender, 186 them all, because getting Richard to 5-5-1-1, 5-1-1-1, or 5-5-5-1, he's not the best investment on the planet. Now, you will use him literally forever. He's always useful. He's a great chainer. His auxiliary skill also isn't bad at all. Neither is his Bastion skills. So Richard's got some fine use later in the game. Not that much, but he's a relatively small investment. He will definitely pay himself back at 5-1-1-1. Will almost certainly pay himself back at 5-5-1-1, and you'd have to be a madman to really get him to 5-5-5-1. I would have paid him off at that, but I don't think I'd hazard 5-5-5-1 on him. However, when you spin these wheels, they give you a bunch of building speedups, and they give you a bunch of research speedups, and they also give you resources. These are all things where later in the game, you value these out of wheels a lot less. The research speeds are way, way less important unless you set up your account in a very specific type of way. The building speeds are way less important up to a certain amount, so you can still turn in some 8-hour speeds. So the building speeds are a little better. The research speeds are definitely going to be cooked later on, though. And if you're spinning these Richard wheels and these YSG wheels, it means that the research and building speeds are useful immediately. Because the building speeds are a lot more useful when they're still buildings to be built rather than turning them into training speeds. I mean, we all love training speeds, we all love troops, they're fine, but troops come and go, right? Your buildings will last forever, and the faster you can get them down because of these building speeds, the better. So if you are 100 spinning a bunch of wheels, I would take it into serious consideration that you just want to do it early game so you can get to your T5 faster. Food for thought. Depending on when you invest your gems, they might be better as other consequences. Now we're going to talk about the cost. Your first KVK pairing, once you come to Season of Conquest, like KVK 3 or KVK 4, is going to be pretty mediocre if you're putting YSG in there. YSG is not a bad commander by any stretch, and now KVK 4 includes like other people local in your continent. So they're not continent necessarily, but like other young kingdoms. So your YSG is not as bad as it will be like KVK 5, but it's just not that strong, right? Like once you finish KVK 3, you want to be looking to having like 1 to 2 decent pairings. YSG, I guess he is a decent pairing, but like if I'm going to look at Scipio YSG or Scipio LC, I know which one I want. If I'm going to be looking at Herman YSG or Herman ZL, I know which one I want, right? You're going to be missing out on a lot when it comes to the quality of pairing that you could have instead. However, we consider one sculpture to generally be around 700 gems. YSG is also a chainer. He also fights, okay? If YSG can pay himself off, similarly to how Richard pays himself off, he wouldn't be a bad investment. So would I still invest in him? I would do it in a heartbeat, okay? If I were restarting this game, I would definitely get YSG. I'm also a maniac. Okay, I'm kind of a psycho with the way I play this game. I totally got it, okay? The majority of really high quality players will not even play the way I do, right? I generally play like, maybe if I stream, I'm playing like 3 to 4 hours a day. If I don't stream, I'm basically not playing. When I stream, I'm chaining, I'm always getting value, and then I'm done. And then I really don't want to touch the game after that because, it's hard to do without burning out for me. So, would I do it? Yes. But you'd have to be kind of a psycho to make it work, right? Not only would you have to be chaining consistently, but you'd have to be good at chaining too. Because like when I chain, it's not like just like an hour or two equals an hour or two of somebody else's time. Like I'm very focused. I'm good at picking up the chains. I'm good at resetting barbs. Like I know what I'm doing because I've just killed so many of them. I've killed probably like 250,000 barbs at this point. Like I've killed an egregious amount, the vast majority of them chaining. I would definitely get him. I would. If you're a casual player, if you have to ask, should I get YSG? You shouldn't get him. I would say YSG at this point would could be for, I would say medium to high spenders should probably get him. I mean, there is a way where you can just like kind of skate through all the way up until Season of Conquest, and then you can just drop all your sculptures at the same time. I would be very, very skeptical of somebody who's like a lower spender. Like, let's say maybe like $200 to $300 a month. I would be very skeptical about investing in a YSG. I don't think it's the worst idea on the planet. I think you might be missing out on other things, especially if you're like a $200 to $300 a month and you're not super active. Like use those $200 to $300 as a crutch to keep up with everybody else. I'd be very, very skeptical about getting YSG. My final thing that I'll say on this is going to be the fun factor, okay? I know, guys. I am all about efficiency, all about this and that, but if you need to expertise a commander before Season of Conquest, or your head will explode, or you'll quit, or you'll burn out, or you won't have any fun, YSG is that commander. In 2024, would I go for YSG? Yes. Would I suggest that most people go for YSG? Probably not. I don't know if I would necessarily count against somebody if I saw YSG in their account. I'd be very skeptical about the amount of value they can get from it. But if you want good fighting KVK 1 and 2, probably 3 and 4 as well. If you want good Bastion auxiliary skills later, if you want a good chaining commander, if you want something that's going to be useful for a very large period of time in some capacities and forever in others, YSG is definitely the commander for you. So should most people be investing in YSG for 2024? No. Would I still do it? Yes. That is it. If you guys are interested in some private account coaching or some public account coaching, I actually do specific account coaching that answers questions just like this. If you guys are interested in that type of thing, you can go to the Discord in the description below and you guys can make a ticket. It's $35 for an on-stream session. It's $75 for an off-stream session. If you guys want to help support the stream, you guys can always donate to the Streamlabs link in the description below, or you guys can feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. It does not matter what you comment. It all helps an absolute ton. I appreciate you guys showing up, and I appreciate you guys watching the video. Take it easy, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.